now. Hello and welcome to what promises to be an impactful discussion. I'm Alisa Porter, Director of Growth and Partnerships at Sprout. I spent the past 18 years in global mobility, helping organizations navigate the complexities of moving talent across borders. When crisis happens in our industry, there's no playbook to prepare us for how to handle that. Today, we're not talking about theoretical crisis management or academic case studies. We're diving into a living, breathing example of how one company responded to the unthinkable when the unthinkable happened. So managing a large-scale employee relocations during an active war while still navigating the tail end of the global pandemic. So joining me today is Olha, who serves as Global Mobility Director at SoftServe, a prominent Ukrainian technology company. When the invasion began, Olha was responsible for a global workforce spread across multiple countries when significant operations and talent based out of the Ukraine. What makes this perspective invaluable is that she didn't just manage the crisis from a distance, she lived it. While coordinating the evacuation and relocation of hundreds of colleagues, she was simultaneously ensuring her own family safety and maintaining business continuity for the company, whose survival depended on keeping critical operations running. She's been instrumental in developing innovative approaches to crisis management, working directly with multiple stakeholders to create new framework for emergency response. And her experience represents not just individual resilience, but a masterclass in adaptive leadership under extreme pressure. So what we're going to cover today is we're going to examine this crisis through three critical lenses. So looking at the program pre the Ukraine war, and what the program looked like at that point, what happened when everything kind of came to a head, and then looking at building for tomorrow and what's going to happen kind of coming out of this. So just a note for the discussion today, while we'll be discussing practical frameworks and operational insights, let's remember that behind every data point and process is a human story. The relocations we'll discuss today weren't career opportunities, they were escapes from safety, and the program adaptations weren't optimization exercises, they were lifelines in a crisis situation. So Olha, thank you so much for joining today and for sharing not only your expertise, but your lived experience with our global mobility community. Your insights will undoubtedly help all of us better serve our people when they need it the most. So looking at the pre-crisis evaluation, kind of what was in place before February 2022 and learning a little bit more about yourself, maybe you can just give us a brief history of your work in global mobility.
Sure, thank you for the introduction, and I'm happy to share the experience. Unfortunately, the experience which is related to crisis management, but still, as we have an evidence, we needed that at one time, right? So I've been more than 10 years in mobility industry, and actually had a chance to build the mobility function almost from scratch at the organization I'm currently in, and actually to build the very well-grounded function, and actually before 2022, so we had very structured and policy-driven relocation program, right? Supported with different relocation packages. Everything was clear, defined, very well-built processes, and so on, right? We had a certain number of vendors to help us to run relocations across multiple locations, right? We have different vendors for immigration, tax support, and so on, right? So our primary focus was, of course, as probably for many of mobility companies, is compliance, right? To make sure that employee experience through the relocation is a priority, right? At the same time, managing the cost estimation and control, and making sure that we do all the moves in line with company strategy and goals, right? And before 2022, we actually had a centralized function managing the mobility and relocations across multiple locations. And we've been partnering with many local HR and not just HR teams across our locations. But when you've done the intro, yes, you just emphasize that I lived through that, getting the personal experience and actually helping our people to go through that crisis, right? But this is not just me. At the very beginning, I want to say that this is all about the team effort across the organization. I don't think that just global mobility function would be able to manage such a scope, because one day everything changed, a lot of changed, and this is just about team efforts, cross collaboration, dedication of many teams and individuals, professionals at the organization. This is the key success. Because of the joint efforts, because different teams took different responsibilities, everything was under stress and uncertainty, right? We didn't have answers to many questions because everything was changing, even not just day by day, but every hour.
Yes.
So different teams were responsible for different processes, monitor, control, and so on. And just because of joint efforts, we were able to go through that time.
Yeah, so set the stage a little for us. So prior to 2022, you obviously are a global tech company managing out of the Ukraine, and presumably from our discussions before, sending people internationally on assignments around the world. And how big was your program, and where were you sending people kind of prior to all of this happening?
Yeah, so actually, we've had, as I said, very well-established processes and policies, and we had up to 100 moves a year across the globe to more than 10, 15 locations.
Right.
Of course, we had some top locations, like 3 top for us. That was, for example, Poland or United States in that top list. But still, we had quite extensive experience moving people to different and multiple locations, and even to one location, then from that location to another locations, right? Moving with families and providing the whole support through that relocation journey.
So did you have any sort of indicators leading up to sort of the February time frame? And were you doing some sort of pre-planning, knowing that there was sort of rumblings of this happening? What were the conversations like kind of before everything really hit?
Yes, of course. At the company level, many conversations were driven about that topic, right? On the country level, of course, through the news and so on. But I have to say that while you, as a professional, you participate in all of these discussions, you try to be ready from your responsibility perspective to support company and people on the individual, personal level. It's really hard to believe that something like this can happen, right? And for me, it was very difficult to realize that, okay, I'm participating in this meeting, collaboration, thinking how and when we're going to do a lot of stuff to ensure like people's safety in case something happens, and how do we support company, how do we stay committed to our commitments in front of the clients, right? But at the same time, on my perception, right, it was hard to believe that this may happen. So that was like a 2-level of understanding of the situation for myself, right? But yes, we've been running discussions. We had some kind of emergency response team, which was designed from the representatives of different functions, legal, finance, many actually representatives, just to make sure that that is coordinated through many areas and aspects, because that was not just about mobility. As I said at the very beginning, this is cross-functional collaboration, and that's the key success.
Yeah. So kind of during the actual crisis itself and sort of the immediate response when sort of everything kind of changed overnight. Take us through sort of what were the first decisions that were made once the sort of attack happened and everybody knew that this was becoming a reality, not just a discussion at that point. What were some of the first decisions that needed to be made from your perspective that involved sort of mobility and from a personal perspective for yourself?
Yeah, I think that that first day, February 21st, that's gonna be forever in my memory, right? And not just for me, probably to many, many people in our country. And you really say from different perspectives, like on the company professional perspective, how we reacted, and on my personal level, right? How I was not pretty much ready on my personal perspective, because I couldn't believe before that the such crisis may happen, right? That in my country such may happen. And the day one was getting ready for anything which might be happening after. From the professional perspective, again, so I remember that at the very beginning of that day, we had the emergency response team discussing many things, what to do and who is responsible for what part to drive. And actually, on our agenda, the very important topic and the first of top priority was safety of our people, safety of our employees, right? And their families as well. So decisions were discussed and made on how we support our people to get from unsafe places to more safer, let's say, because that period of time we didn't know what was exactly the safe place or not, but we just decided to move people from the east part of the country to west part of the country for safety reasons, and supporting them in their like some kind of evacuation, right, including their families. That was very important for us as a first step to ensure we have a safety, and we support safety of our people as much as we could at that period of time.
Yeah, and how did you during that time sort of balance, I guess, going from business as usual to flipping into emergency mode right away? How did that sort of shift happen for you? Or was it a slow progression because you had already been discussing it prior?
We've been discussing that prior, of course, but if just to talk about my reflection, you can discuss a lot, but it's not easy when it happens, you know. It's different, you feel different, you think a little bit different, right? But I think that through the emergency response team, again, collaboration effort, that was easier to manage and to switch to this emergency mode. Because everyone was responsible for some part of the some area, let's say like this, right? And due to these connections, which happened even a couple of days, times per day, then we switched to another mode as we in a couple of weeks and months. But at the very beginning, these meetings helped to drive this emergency mode, and actually real-time communication and coordination helped us a lot.
Right. And how, or what was the timeline, I guess, on, you know, you had this shift from employees going from the east, now moving them to the west. How long into it did you finally start to evacuate kind of out of the country and make the decision to move some of the employees? And what was that decision process like in terms of who you were going to choose to go, and or was it everyone? Like, what was that sort of decision making?
Yes, this is the good question because at the very beginning, something that was some kind of a chaos, of course, right?
Right.
A lot of moving parts and a lot of stuff to think and take care of. But we've been very quick and fast to design some kind of proposal to our uh, executive team to
Yeah.
decide where and how we would see the as a need to propose to our people if they decide to move, right, where to
Right.
move. Uh, Considering our actually strategy, business need, and our commitments in front of our customers, of course. That is also very important topic.
Yeah.
And actually, we had two focuses. We didn't make on a company level decision that this employee is moving. This one, we would say no, not at all, because everyone
Yeah.
every talent was important to us. So that was not about the company decision on the individual level. Rather, we focused on the as a program, what we
Right.
can suggest and support to our people. So one of the suggestion of the approach was if you want to still stay within the country, so you can move from that region to more safe region, right? That was the option, and we had the was the help of regional teams management. So we were able to help with the transportation, with accommodation, to help people to move inside the country, in
Right.
country moves, right? But at the same time, we also um, provided the opportunity for people to move abroad if
Right.
they wanted to, if that was the decision for them, right, and their families. We, of course, the Poland was the first and host country
Yeah.
to actually host people, right? But at the same time, we have different other locations like Romania, Bulgaria to help and host our people, and our our countries, which I just listed, the management, people, they were helping so much to host and meet Ukrainians moving outside of Ukraine. So it was so they were so dedicated to help to meet to understand actually because this is the stress. You leave your country, so you don't know. You don't have time to get ready for that. You just
Yeah.
take what you need to take with you and you just move, and then you try to understand actually where you are and what's next, right, for you.
Yeah.
So local teams were helping so much, and that was really priceless. The
Yeah.
support was really huge. So on the company levels, as I said, as a summary, we had the opportunity to support in-country moves, and the
Yeah.
another part moving abroad to
Right.
other hub locations where
Right.
we could support our people, right, with the help of local teams.
Yeah, and during that time, in our conversations, what was your sort of personal situation while all of this was going on? What was the decision that you had made for yourself during that time?
Yes, actually, for me, in a couple of weeks, I also moved the country together
Hmm.
with my daughter, and spent a couple of months outside of Ukraine.
Yeah.
Yes, but later on, I decided to move back
Mhm.
and to keep staying here in Ukraine. It was hard, of course. When you plan your move, that's one thing. When you just pushed actually to move due to the circumstances,
Yeah.
so it's really hard. So you don't know what to take with you. You
Yeah.
just take very,
Okay.
very necessary step, and you just go. That's it.
Yeah.
And then you try to understand where you are and what to do the next, right?
Yeah.
But even when I was in that my journey of leaving Ukraine, leaving the country, I still kept working through the
Yeah.
chats, messengers, anything which help us to coordinate the efforts and to support each other and support our people. That was very on top of our mind, to help our people and to keep business continuity, right?
Yeah.
So my personal experience as an emergency relocation, right? So it's hard, really.
Yeah.
It's not easy to make that decision, and when you do not plan it, and that's like decision overnight that, okay, I have to move due to safety, first of all, of my daughter, right?
Yeah.
So that was not easy, right?
And during all of this,
if I just may add that such experience really helped me to understand how our people in the company felt at the moment when they were moving as well, right? So you through that experience, I really recognized how hard the decision was when you are not getting to leave, but you have to leave due to your kids, for example, right? Safety. And that really helped me to realize a lot of processes, a lot of support we then provided to our people, to our employees, because I went through that experience and I just realized what to add in the process, more empathy, for example, more support. Because this is not about the logistic. This is another decision on very different level, right? When you just leave due to such a reason. Yeah.
And obviously, while this is going on, you're shifting people from east to west, you're moving people out of the country, including yourself. Business is going on as usual.
Right.
And you still have clients to manage and deliverables to get across. And how did that sort of work? Was there any pause to, you as a company being able to fulfill your obligations externally? And how did sort of the employees kind of manage that, as well as, personal, professional, all of this situation going on?
We were working non-stop, I would rather say.
I bet.
And actually, we as a company performed on the top level within that first period of time, because you feel responsibility in front of your client, customers, right? In front of your employees, in front of your family, right? And you just put all your energy, resources into living through that crisis, and to keep being on top of your on top of everything you can do. So on the company level, I think the productivity was even higher than usual.
Interesting.
That's the phenomenon. But still, we managed to be very responsible and deliver our commitments in front of our clients. And actually, being on my personal experience, so I was so much dedicated on supporting, driving our relocation efforts, right? Then I haven't realized at that time that I can do so much.
Right.
So
interesting.
Everyone, even in my team, every single team member in my mobility team, we've been so focused and intentionally to support our people. That it's strange and it's probably hard to explain even now, but due to some reason, you feel that you can do so much and you do it.
And I know you had mentioned sort of that prior to all of this happening, you had moved, about 100 employees a year. That was your program size. And how did that change in the sort of first year and years following? What did the program size grow to? And
Yes, the program really everything changed for us, right? Hundreds, thousands people moved within very short periods of time. And that was very drastic change for us as a team. And as a company, right? And the question was, how do we manage that? How do we support our people? Because you don't have time to extend the team, my team, for example, right? Mobility team. You don't have, you have to react immediately. You have to help your people. People are asking questions and they are looking for the answers, right? And a lot of changes across the law. Because there was a special temporary protection regime activated due to that crisis, right, on the European Union level, and many countries just implemented a new law, and we had to investigate a lot of new stuff, a lot, which we've never faced before. And actually, even countries like a temporary protection status, that was very not easy for the companies for the countries to guide how to use the benefit of that programs, right? So yes, over the night, let's say like this, a lot of changed from 100 moves to hundreds moves, right? Or thousands moves in the end. But we've been very open to that, because our primary goal was to support our people and ensure their safety as well as business continuity. So we started to challenge ourselves. How do we manage that, right?
How did you manage where everybody was and where everybody wanted to go? And obviously you've got different visa and immigration for different countries and different requirements depending on where people wanted to be. Obviously, countries even like Canada here, we opened our doors up and said, come. And so you've got, all these different people wanting to go different places. And so how did you manage that and trying to figure out where everybody was and keep a hold of all of that, when your program substantially increased, I mean, probably to tenfold kind of overnight. How did that happen?
Yeah, that was the biggest challenge we faced, actually. Thousands of people in more than 30, 40 countries. And the question was, how do we manage that? How do we balance between people needs, company needs, right, and goals? And how do we manage all of this stuff like immigration, legalization, taxation part, whatever is behind that, right? Even the security stuff like GDPR, because we are committed in front of our clients in some projects, right, to keep all of these requirements. So I remember the day when I opened the report and I realized, okay, I have like 30, 40 countries in my list, right?
Jeez,
I've never been in such situation before. And we started to think what to do. And we designed a special program behind that to first of all, address the business needs, but at the same time, keeping associate needs on top of our mind as well, right? So we designed some kind of programs to support our people and company, and we communicated that across the organizations through our managers, leaders, explain what was behind the program, right? What we can do, support, provide to our people. And actually, I think that was very successful because, of course, it didn't happen in a couple of weeks or months, but over the time, we managed to actually, I would rather say, group our people in different locations, and we significantly minimized the number of countries.
Oh, okay.
Right. And we actually promoted our relocation program and opportunities, right, across the organization. We run different webinars from different immigration perspective, cultural perspective, taxation perspective, explaining our people different aspects to consider for their future stay, right? But at the very beginning, we all thought that crisis, the war is not for the long periods of time, just for a couple of months. That was the hope, right? And we think from that perspective, we designed some kind of programs, right, saying that if it's short term, this is your option or opportunity. If you decide to stay for long term in that or these countries, so these are the options we can help you to and provide you, right? So we designed the program from different angles and perspectives, and to make it flexible as much as we could at that period of time, at the same time balancing between many aspects, right? Like company, associate needs, safety, commitments, and so on. Yes, that's one day I think that our job as a team increased by 700% or 800%. I don't recall exactly the number right now, but that was like a shock. Okay, I have to do that. But step at a time, with the dedication of team, with the very good collaboration and support cross-functionally, step by step, having very clear communication and explanation about the opportunities, about the support, and so on. So we were able to make it stable from that perspective, to make it manageable.
So you had employees moving potentially multiple times, depending on, they moved from east to west, and then they moved out to maybe some of the surrounding countries like Poland. And then they were sort of given the opportunity, if it was long term, to kind of go to one of the locations that you had pre-designated to say if you wanted to come there. Canada included, I understand.
Right. Yes, right. So we will be flexible enough, but being focused to ensure compliance, right, for the company, for the our employees, and managing between different requirements, right, from the law perspective, from the immigration, taxation perspective, and so on. It was not easy because we didn't have the answers to many questions, even from the temporary protection status, even from taxation perspective, right, for our people, because they immediately left the country without any possibility to address any tax stuff, which we usually address with any planned relocation, right? And that was not easy to answer all of these questions, because it's not because of we didn't want to answer. We just didn't have any guidance from the countries people were moved to, right? A lot of uncertainty, a lot of stress, right? But still, being focused and intentional helped us to go through that very hard periods of time.
Yeah, and in those first, sort of that first year, you it sounds like you did a bit of a phased approach. There's this sort of emergency, immediate response, and then it was sort of like, okay, what are we planning for if this crisis is short term or long term? What were some of the lessons learned that you had during that period, and things that maybe didn't go very well? You had to reassess and readjust.
I think that we had many different challenges. I think that the sky is the limit for communication, right? That's the most important part of any crisis management. So we invested a lot of efforts into communicating on the company level about the situation, right? How company was doing at that time, what we were going to do, and so on. specifically for the relocation opportunities and the support to be provided, right? But I think that reflecting right now, so communicating even more, giving more
Right.
and more details to people would help them to manage their stress a little bit
Yeah.
easier. Probably this will, of course, stress will not couldn't be eliminated, right? But still, to manage the stress would help more. The another part I was thinking and reflecting. Now, I would give the advice, right, to have the extended list of providers or vendors who can
Right.
help you from different perspective, right? Because if one day the volume is increased, so you
Yeah.
need to make sure that you have a different and diversified approach from
Right.
the vendor's perspective and partners and so on, right? Um, Probably it could be more helpful for us to have different immigration providers, because
Right.
the temporary protection status was something absolutely new,
Yeah.
and it was not easy to understand how to implement that
Right.
to other people, right? And one vendor said this way, the another said, okay, that could be probably in that way implemented. And the more you have the inputs, the better you can navigate through all of this uncertainty and just trying to put to your organization,
Yeah.
understand how to move forward, right?
Yeah.
So that probably could be to communication and more extended list of your partners to support you, ask questions, because partners are on the ground and they are more connected to the law, for example, if it's immigration part, or the
Yeah.
taxation matters and so on.
Yeah. So kind of looking to the future and what you've done with your program, you've obviously got a lot of people still out. Do you have a number or amount of what's the sort of number that's out of the country that's still out of the country, I guess? What does your expat population look like at the moment?
Yeah, actually the population or relocation population,
Yeah.
let's say like this, significantly increased for us as a
Yeah.
company, but at the same time we still keep running relocations even
Right.
now,
Just as
right? Because
regular. Yeah.
yes, now we are more or less stable from the processes perspective, from the
Right.
policies perspective, because we understand how things are managed on the country's level, from the local law perspective, from the labor law perspective, or immigration or taxation, right? But still, I think that our relocation population is huge,
Yeah.
and actually this makes us to think on the company level, how do we onboard these people in new locations, right?
Right.
Because they are
Yeah.
absolutely new to these locations. So a lot of foreigners, let's say like this, are joining the new location. And how do we manage our onboarding processes? How do we
Right.
manage the culture aspects for all of them, right? So these are questions on our table right now, and we need to think a lot. This is not just about moving people, right? This is
Yeah.
how to help them being integrated into location, being
Right.
on the even culture level, just to integrate into many, many local aspects to make sure that they can um, work, stay comfortable, and ensure their experience on the high level. Yeah.
Yeah. So, have you done sort of a temperature check of your existing population to see who would want to stay, who's looking forward, who wants to come back home? Do
Mhm.
people want to be in a different location other than the one that they originally chose? Like, what's sort of the workforce planning been like to have a look at sort of what's going on with those expats that weren't planned relocations that you've got out there?
Yes, that's I would rather say if at the very beginning of the war, the challenge was how to manage all of these emergency relocations.
Yeah.
So we are more or less now understand how to manage that going
Yeah.
through the process, right? Now we have another challenge. What's
Yeah.
gonna happen with our people who left the country, right? And they are they've been relocated and legalized in new location in that locations, but what's going to happen when the war is ended,
Yeah.
right? This is the good question to ask. So actually there are different data about that even on the country level.
Yeah.
Not on the company level, right? But the longer war is happening, continues to be the percentage of people who think return or not to return is different, right?
Right.
But what we do, where we focus now, is to make sure that we can manage different scenarios.
Right.
So even right now, we are getting ready for different scenarios. Even some people will stay abroad, right?
Right.
Some will be coming back. So that's another scenario for us to follow, and we
Yeah.
need to be ready for that. Or there are another scenario that people who are still here in Ukraine, they might think of leaving or
Right.
moving, relocating
And that's
when
really
it's
driven
possible for them.
because the borders were closed. And from
Right,
what I understand, the men were not allowed to leave. And so you guys are planning for the
right,
eventuality that the borders open, and maybe some of the male employees then may want to say, let's go.
right. That could
Yeah.
be the scenario, right? But at this moment, it's really hard to have some
Yeah.
really defined way to go.
Yeah.
So everything is changing. Everything depends on many political aspects and
Right.
then the situation in the country. So we decided to focus on different scenarios and be ready
Yes.
for everyone to support, right?
Right. Okay.
Uh, to avoid a surprise to us, right? So
Right.
we want to have predefined flows, predefined decisions, predefined opportunities to provide so that
Yeah.
we can support any, because most likely what I think, my personal opinion, that three of these scenarios might be in action actually
Yeah.
simultaneously, right?
Yes, for
Because
sure.
some group of people will stay abroad, some will return back, and some will leave the country. So,
Right.
and that's going to be different for us experience as a team, as a function, because at the beginning of 2022, that was a crisis management
Right.
emergency relocation, right? Moving from this direction to that direction, right?
Yeah.
What we expect now, so we would have different scenarios moving at the same time to Ukraine,
Right.
moving at the same time
How did
outside of Ukraine, right? So we would have different processes
right.
and different policies to
Hmm.
follow, but still we think on this and we are getting ready now
Yeah.
for different scenarios.
How has your mobility program permanently changed as a result of going through this? Like, what are the things that are going to stay around after going through this?
Yeah, so this is the question. Actually, I've been reflecting on this
Yeah.
for a couple of months already. How did we change as a program, right?
Right.
So actually, we became more agile
Hmm.
and flexible. The another part to survive in 2022, 2023, because that was the biggest number of people who moved within that
Yeah.
period of time. So we actually focused our efforts on uh, making supporting other people and ensuring the transparency of the move for them and for our managers and leaders through the automated workflows, right?
Right.
So we invested the efforts internally to design some kind of tool through which we run the relocation program, and this help us as a team, right?
Yeah.
To manage such huge volume of relocations, right? That's the first benefit of it. The second is we ensure compliance, right? We understand what is happening when and so on. The another part important here is we ensure transparency for our people and for our leaders, who is moving, why, where, which, based on which terms and conditions, right? And so on. And now it helps us a lot to be very productive as a team and to run a lot of moves at the same time. And that was so we focused like, as probably you mentioned today, that was like a phased approach for us, right? So we at 2022, 2023, we focused on the relocation efforts. Now, as I said, we are getting ready for another scenario when the war is ended and we need to support our people in 3 directions, for example. So we also focused our efforts to design the processes of coming back, right? Because we might have different scenarios. As I said, someone will be leaving, somebody will be returning, right? And we need to ensure that transparency and support. So we also run the efforts on making these flows automated through the specific technology, right? To ensure compliance, transparency, huge volume of work, which would be managed by different teams and so on.
So you're really leveraging technology to kind of manage the program, has come out of this whole situation, is trying to become as efficient as possible when your team didn't grow, but you had such a huge explosion in the population of people moving.
Right. And it helped us a lot in that. Despite the fact that we launched that technology by phase, right? But still, over the months, we benefited of that a little bit easier, I would rather say, way to manage relocations, because of course the team was very it was hard for the team to manage such volume, right? Such exposure one day, right? And months over months, it was easier and easier. A team was a little bit, more happy and more happy to manage that, because when you have enormous amount of requests, it's hard to manage, right?
To manage that. So how has this whole experience changed your views on global mobility, the company's views on global mobility, sort of from pre to now? And I mean, you're still living it, so maybe we'll do an update later on, but how has it changed your mobility perspective to date?
Yes. So, of course, in 2022, so mobility team and efforts, everything which was related to that function. So that was the biggest focus, right? Because as we said, safety was the primary focus for us, safety of our people. And we actually delivered as a team many different reports, suggestions to our executive team table, right? To suggest what can be done, how to support better our people from the cost perspective, right? How to balance many aspects. So we, over the very short period of time, we moved from more transactional operational team to more strategic, right? And we keep the same pace, I would rather say, because everything is happening even now. The volume is a little bit less, but still we keep running relocations, right? And we keep running updates, sharing the data, the cost behind that, and so on. So this is very, very a lot of This is very important because we need to understand where our people are and have to manage and support them, right? So actually, through that period of time, we moved from the manual, a lot of stuff doing manual, right, to automated flows through the technology, right? We designed a lot of dashboards on the Power BI to show where our people are, who moved from which location to what, and many aspects like that. So we create such an environment for our managers and leaders so that they can manage their relocation population in their teams as well, understanding who is where, help them to manage their people as well.
That's really interesting that this was sort of that it really within the company brought mobility into a very strategic role and sort of highlighted the importance of what's done within global mobility from, like you said, that sort of transactional operational, HR function that's sits there to being very involved heavily in workforce planning and at a strategic level with the executive team to sort of give them all of the information that they need regularly. So that's really interesting how that this sort of pushed that transition as well. And yeah, and we talked a lot about obviously the employee forecasting that you're doing, and I'm really interested later on to learn what ended up happening and what your population ended up choosing. Hopefully this conflict comes to an end at some soon point. But yeah,
so right
to kind of understand sort of what ended up going, because you're still obviously living this as sort of a living case study. Any other final points that you wanted to make sort of about what you're up to now and sort of looking to the future and within your team preparing for sort of what's to come?
Yeah, but before we go for that part, I want to share another reflection from my side that in 2022, so when everything started, right, the full scale invasion and so on, people moved. So there was one day when it was clear that we need to change our processes to adjust to reality, right? Before, by end of 2021, we had very structured processes, everything was in place, so everyone knew what to do and so on, right? And I saw that, okay, that's the best way to run the program, right? So nothing could be changed. But in 2022, I realized that, okay, it's time to change. Otherwise, it's going to be impossible within the previous so structured processes to go through that crisis. And, I observed that I was a little bit even, I had a pushback. I even had a pushback to change the processes, right? So, but one day I said, okay, I need to change, otherwise we would not be able to run through that. And we need to support our people, we need to answer, and we need to react on the fly. So we didn't have time to get ready for the change, right? To put all of the information together, to change the process, to deliver to people. Now, everything was done on the fly, right? So you change and you communicate this change. Again, you change, you actually change. You think, okay, is it something to change today, or probably we would change later, and many questions, right? To address within the function within your team, but still you change on the fly. And you answer the questions, and probably the change which you did yesterday, today you need already to change it
again.
Because that's the way to go. Otherwise, it's impossible. So, and couple of my reflections would be that agility is the number one here, flexibility very important, and actually empathy. You need to understand your people, to understand how to support them. And this is not about just moving them in that crisis management from one location to another to support. This is to help them to live through that move, which is really hard to go through, right? And if reflecting, and actually not reflecting, but thinking on the future, right? I want to be in a good shape as a function to be ready to support the another part of our story. I hope so, when everything is settled, right? When people are coming back, because or people even would be moving, and we need to be realistic one, right? To understand that we have different types of moves. Coming back to Ukraine or leaving Ukraine, right? I want to make sure that we complete this, I would rather say, exercise, right? Starting from the 2022 in a very good way, so that people say, right, the company did everything for me to support, right? At the very beginning, and when I decide to come back, the same experience, good experience, support, empathy, and so on is still there, right? So this is for me to think how to implement together with the team and with the cross-functional teams, right? But still, that's important to think and deliver.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking your time today. This has been really insightful. And I know that I got a lot out of it. I've got a lot out of all of our conversations, and, you know, still have lots of questions. And like I said, would love to do a follow-up to complete the circle and really learn what the experiences were coming out of this, and the learnings from then. So we would love to have you back on at a later date when all of that, with happy news that that's all done. But thank you for taking your time to walk through that. I know it was a very personally challenging situation, as well as professionally and for the company. And it sounds like the crisis management that was done was very well done from your perspective and the company, and really bred a lot of loyalty and a lot of hard work in all of the employees. And it sounds like everybody really pulled together, especially in the beginning, to make sure that the company flourished in this sort of time, as well as you know, the company taking care of the employees from a safety perspective, so that everybody could continue on. So that's amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to share our experience and how we survived through that period of time, through the processes changing, policies changing, helping other people, right? And hope to have another session to close the cycle, right, with the happy story.
Yes, very good. All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.